7 Secrets of Vishnu by Devdutt Pattanaik. Chapter 2, Matsya's Secret. Only humans can empathize and exploit. Part 2. As more of the forest is domesticated and turned into fields to provide for human society, more and more of nature is destroyed for culture. Human laws tend to include some and exclude some, and in doing so, push nature to its limits. This is evident in the following story from the Mahabharata. A king called Shibi, in compassion, rescues a dove being chased by a hawk. The hawk asks the king, "What will I eat now?" The king suggests he eat another dove. The hawk retorts, "So that you can indulge your compassion for this dove, you are willing to sacrifice another dove? Is that fair?" The king then asks the hawk to eat a rat or a serpent. "Why should they die so that the dove can live?" The question has no answer. In being kind to the dove, the king is being cruel to the hawk. The king has included the dove but excluded the hawk. Why should the dove be saved? Why should the hawk be made to starve? The questions, which have no answers, challenge the human construct of society. Man creates society as he pursues his imagination of paradise, a place where all creatures are safe. However, in the process, he creates a world where some are more safe than others. Human society invariably favors a few over others. Culture is thus always imperfect. Vishnu lore always draws attention to this truism, for Vishnu is a worldly god and knows that seeking answers by controlling material reality will never be satisfactory. In the Mahabharata, the Pandavas seek to build a city in the forest given to them by their uncle. The only way to do this is by burning down the forest. Vishnu, in the form of Krishna, encourages them to do so. As the forest burns, the birds and the beasts of the forest try to run away to save themselves, only to be shot down by arrows released by the Pandavas at the behest of Krishna. This reeks of cruelty, until one realizes that until the forest is burnt, a field cannot be established. Culture is built on the destruction of a natural ecosystem. In the Bhagavad Puran, Krishna's elder brother Balram, also a form of Vishnu, wants the river Yamuna to come to him so that he can bathe without making the effort to go to the river. The river goddess refuses to come to him. Enraged, Balram grabs the river goddess by her hair and forces her to come to him. In some versions, he uses his plow to hook her side and bring her to where he is. The act is described in extremely violent terms, for material reality has been subjugated with force against her will. The story alludes to the practice of canal irrigation, which is not natural. It entails the destruction of riverbanks, and with it, the destruction of many animals that may have depended on an intact riverbank for their survival. Manu's motivation may be noble, but it includes only the fish in the pot, not the other fishes outside. Thus, what begins as empathy for one ends up becoming rather exclusive, lack of empathy for the rest. Humans can never include everybody. Plants and animals are excluded if they do not serve the needs of society. Crops are included, weeds are not. Domesticated animals are welcomed, but wild animals are shunned. People whose points of view align with ours are included, the rest are excluded. Society will always exclude somebody, and this exclusion eventually claims a huge price. So the fish gets bigger and bigger, utilizing all the resources provided by Manu, and Manu keeps transferring it to bigger pots to satisfy its ever-growing needs. At no point does Manu think the fish can fend for itself, and so he does not bother to throw the fish back into the sea. At no point does the fish think it can fend for itself and ask Manu to throw it back into the sea. The fish in the pot gradually becomes dependent on Manu and displays no desire to be independent. Eventually, the fish has to be put in a pond, then a larger pond, then a lake, and finally a river. A point comes in the story when dark clouds gather overhead and it rains relentlessly. The sea begins to swell and swallow the earth. It is pralaya, death of the world. This is what happens when human society becomes so focused on itself that it loses touch with the rest of nature, when culture expands at the cost of everything else, when the needs of culture override the needs of nature. Eventually, something will snap. Nature will strike back. At first, Manu wonders why he is suffering even though he spent his life doing a noble deed, caring for the small fish. He blames the rain and curses the sea. But then, realization dawns. This is not explicitly stated in the scriptures, as Manu is the reader of the tale. Manu is all of humanity. This wisdom has to be figured out by the story listener, not communicated by the storyteller. Manu realizes that his obsession with the small fish is the cause of the great calamity. This obsession made him insensitive to the fact that the fish had grown and could take care of itself. He became insensitive to the consequences of his action on the rest of the world. Every action has a reaction that one is bound to experience. This is the law of karma. Just as society is created by an act of compassion when Manu saves the fish, society is destroyed when the compassion becomes exclusive and fails to include all of nature. When Manu realizes this, he takes responsibility for his role in pralaya. It is then that the fish reappears before Manu. This time, the fish has a horn on his forehead. Why a horn on his forehead? Is it to direct Manu towards his larger brain, that source of imagination, that root of empathy and exploitation? The horn is very much like the vertical mark of Vishnu, reminding Manu that life is about growth. Manu grew from animal to human when he saved the fish, but he was unable to make the move from human to divine when he focused exclusively on the fish and became too insensitive to include the rest. While there was material growth indicated by the larger pots, there was no emotional and intellectual growth to realize that he has to expand his vision to include all. The horned fish guides Manu to build a boat, much like the biblical Noah's Ark. The fish asks Manu to tie the boat to his horn using the serpent Adi Anantashesha. The fish then tows the ship to safety to Mount Meru, the center of the world. When the waters recede, an enlightened Manu saved by the fish and its horn starts the world anew. In some versions of the story, a demon called Panchajana steals the Veda and hides at the bottom of the sea as pralaya claims the earth. Vishnu, in the form of a fish, defeats the demons, rescues the Vedas, and hands them over to Manu. Having killed the demon, Vishnu turns the conch shell in which the demon had hidden into a trumpet called Panchajanya. This Vishnu blows so that everyone hears the secret of the Veda. And what is this secret? In nature, all plants and animals move cyclically and predictably. They have no choice but to stay within this wheel. But humans have the power to break this cycle, turn the wheel into a spiral that winds outwards and inwards. The break in trajectory happens when humans break free from fear, empathize, follow dharma, and transcend animal instincts to realize divinity. The spirals of the conch shell, sacred to Vishnu, are reminders of this unique human possibility.
जब चाहो ऑन हो जाओ, एपिक ऑन चलाओ. Available across all devices.